Could we be living in a simulation? And can we use our emotions to jump timelines? This is Robert Manni, host of Guys TV, and this week my special guest is Cognomovement founder Bill McKenna. And it all starts right here, right now on Guys TV. You can also catch me on KCAA Radio here in Southern California, Guys Radio, my worldwide podcast, and we're on UK Health Radio all weekend long. Guys TV, Guys Radio. Thanks for your support. Okay, welcome to the interview portion of Guys Radio. My special guest is a return guest, Bill McKenna. We're going to talk about Cognomovement, but let me ask you a couple of questions here. Would you like to transform your life, your health, and your consciousness all through your nervous system? Well, if that's the case, you've come to the right place. And we're going to talk to Bill again about Cognomovement. It's a multi-sensory brain-body method made of techniques that are individually supported by peer-reviewed, published neuroscience and clinical research. Did I get that right, Bill? Welcome back to the show.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thanks, Robert. Yeah, you got that perfect.
So in your words now, what exactly, and for benefit of our listeners and viewers out there who have never heard the term Cognomovement, what is it and what does it do?
What Cognomovement is a series of different techniques that help a person with really hard to solve problems. Say emotional things that come up, guilt, grief, resentment, blame, how you feel about yourself, or athletic performance, physical performance. The techniques basically help to rewire the brain and the nervous system to adopt a whole new, better life, whether that is being able to run faster, be more agile, have better balance, be good at board games, or just have a better relationship. Cognomovement is really everything that in life that your brain has something to do with. Cognomovement can help. Okay. And the reason being is that it's a physical exercise for the brain.
Now, it sounds like it covers a lot of area. If you go on the website, you've got everything from cosmic cogno to fitness to ideas and creativity and manifesting money and life transformation and cravings. And how do you have various techniques for various maladies that people have?
That's a really good question. The basic system where we help your brain work better and more efficiently or create hyperconnectivity in your brain, they're basically the same exercises, but we apply them slightly differently to get a different outcome. For example, cravings. And cravings, I could use a gambling example. Gambling, like cravings, can destroy your life, but it is a craving. It's like the excitement of, winning and being in it and the possibilities. Well, what we do is we let the person actually enjoy that craving. Most people spend their lives trying to no, I shouldn't gamble. Oh my gosh, my inheritance or whatever. Well, we go the opposite and we let them feel, no, I want the excitement. I love this. I can't wait to the feeling of driving in the horse track, into the parking lot and everything, everything about it, we let them feel it and we do the exercises and the brain rewires so that they don't care about it anymore. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with the cravings as well.
So a couple of things. So having stopped drinking alcohol 5 years ago, almost to the day, and I just did it because I felt like doing it. I figured it ran the race, and that was good, and I enjoyed it, and then I stopped. So I learned afterwards that it was all about the ritual. I learned that it really wasn't alcohol. It was about the ritual, opening the bottle of wine, meeting friends, having something to carry in my hand, opening a bottle of beer, holding it in the glass. Then I realized that they have alcohol removed versions of everything now. And once in a while, I'll have a non alcoholic beer or even a non alcoholic glass of wine. And it definitely satisfies my quote unquote cravings uh, behaviorally because I'm replicating the ritual. Does this have any relationship to cognomovement and what you just described for gambling, Bill?
You're 100% correct. You know, exactly. That was brilliant of you to have figured that out. Most people don't know exactly what you're talking about. The ritual. You know, there's an entire thing. There's the right glass and there's the temperature of the glass and everything. The same thing with gambling. You know, there's the anticipation
Right.
of what it's like, you know, when you get there and the people that are there or the sounds, you know. There's a lot of sounds at, you know, in a casino or the horse track. There's the smells of it. There is, you know, the selecting of the machine or the selecting of the horse and you know,
Mhm.
it's an entire thing. We have people just like you were saying. There was a woman who a very famous woman who craved pizza, but she needed to have not only the pizza, but she said, I eat too much pizza and I drink too much wine. But but you know, and
That's
you
impossible.
well, but get this, the ritual of it would include mustard. And you know, there was this whole ritual of having mustard with your pizza, and I don't even understand who does that.
Yikes.
I don't get it. But and a Diet Coke. So
Okay.
Diet Coke, wine, pizza, mustard, and the combination of these things would for have driven her into a very bad position in life. And it's very simple. We all do is all of us, myself included, we get our cravings because we had a great emotion. Maybe it was being accepted. You know, when you had the beer and you carried it in or whatever, there might have been the first time you were with your friends and you got accepted. There was a great emotion
Mhm.
with it. You had fun, you were laughing. And then, you know, there's the taste of the beer, there's the little bit of carbonation psst, as you open it, you
Mhm.
know, the first little bubbles on your tongue that that entire thing combined with I'm accepted, I'm loved, I'm appreciated, I'm funny.
Mhm.
People around me are funny.
Okay.
We're having a good time.
All right. My special guest on Guys Radio, return guest and a good friend and teacher, Bill McKenna, the founder of Cognomovement. He works with his partner Liz Larson, and they do work all around the world. And it's an amazing and very unique modality, if you will. So again, for the benefit of the folks who don't know much about Cognomovement, so I'm seeing kind of in my mind's eye like a circuit board, and I'm plugging in the right wires into the circuit board. Does Cognomovement help do that so everything's in the right place? But first, you have to determine, okay, what's off, which plug is unplugged or in the wrong plug, and then you plug it in, and then regardless of what your issue is, it is addressed because you're framed in the right way now. Is that
Well, I love the way you put that. That's really cool. You know, the interesting thing here is that unplugging and plugging in the circuit is automatic. You know, the cool thing is with these physical exercises, uh, we have direct access to the brain. So we know from research that the eyeballs, the brain, and the spinal cord are literally one system. And what we do is we utilize those and it's primarily those, but there's much, much more because the nervous system extends to your ears. It extends to your tongue, to your toes. So we will utilize all different parts of the body to stimulate the brain and get it to look at another perspective and get it to automatically rewire itself. We're basically there helping out. We're a guide, but
Mhm.
your nervous system does it on its own. It knows, oh, unplug this and plug in that. It knows.
Okay. And a lot of your work that you do, Bill, because I've worked with you and it's been successful, it does work, is using your cogno ball and eye movement. Could you just, for the sake of our audience again, who may not be familiar with cogno movement, how does that work and why are the eye movements so important? And what is the purpose of the ball? It's a soccer ball, basically, with
Yeah,
different
it's a
colors.
soccer ball. It's one of the tools that we use. We use a lot of different tools. But the Cogno Movement ball, we have a few different balls that we use, but they're all basically have colors. They have colors on it and symbols. So the beauty of using a ball, we have a few different, balls that are colorful that we use. And what happens is that we leave a little peach
Wow, you got
balls.
new ones.
Yeah, that's a new yeah,
You
that's a
got to
new
use that as a holiday ornament also.
you could or you could put it as an earring. Uh uh but basically uh what we do is it's a focal point. We'll use it to focus your eyeball on at different distances. Uh and so that we can utilize every distance from you as a different part of your brain. We use it as a point to create focus in your peripheral vision. So we'll work with a person in their peripheral vision. For a lot of us that are like you and me, brain injuries from concussions, where go out and do stupid stuff like hockey or football or martial arts, and we get a concussion. Well, a lot of that affects our peripheral vision, and with that, um, people get kind of anxious feelings, and you don't know why you're anxious. Well, that peripheral vision is not all coordinated. So we'll use it along with some sound tapping to create the environment where that peripheral vision can come back online. It's utilized for many, many purposes to get information flowing from left brain to right brain in different ways, uh, as well as a a tossing of it. So at different points, you're causing um, yourself to catch the ball in different positions, which it randomizes where you're active in your brain. So you're having to work very hard while you're thinking about the betrayal. I had this betrayal and oh my God, my life's ruined. And in all of these different positions, all of a sudden all your brain is looking at
And
the
what does that do then? So okay, you're doing that, and so you're looking at it from all different angles. What does that do?
so what it does is it enables you to rewire your brain, meaning um, for the first, let's take a betrayal, for example. Uh, a betrayal, there's a lot of hurt in that. And so the person's feeling the hurt and that sort of thing. And and that means that they're not really utilizing this function here, this executive function, or the parts that do emotional regulation. So what we do is, well, it'll pop for a second. They're forced to catch the ball in a particular position or utilize this ball in a certain position. All of a sudden, it'll be like a flash of insight. Like, oh, wait a second. We weren't even in a committed relationship. I made it up. Yeah, I liked each other and we did stuff together and but we never really discussed, commitment or, whatever be the case. Whatever 1 million different pieces of information. Everybody's has their own experience.
Mhm.
But bottom line is that the pain associated with the betrayal starts to diminish and to the point where you don't feel it anymore. And with it, maybe even broader perspectives like, you know what? I'm free now. You know what? I get my Saturdays off from, being with them, and now I'm free to go and do
Got it.
something else
Okay.
that's it.
Okay. So, cognitive movement, we have an idea now what it is, how it works, and we want to talk about something different today because we've gone through that, but I think it's always important to kind of level set where we have new members of the audience or people might not be exactly sure what this is and how it works. I think we've got that, Bill. You have been posting some stuff online and talking about kind of shifting realities, topic shifting, jumping timelines, timeline jumping. Why is that important? And how do you create a reality or jump into a new timeline so you can do it at will? And more importantly, pick out the timeline that you want. And start out by like, what is a timeline, and why is that so important? And how there are multiple timelines out there at all times.
Well, that's so many things that
Yes, it is.
so it's an incredibly interesting concept is a timeline. You know, I certainly when I was growing up, the concept of timeline never came up. I would, you're just living your life, doing what you do, and life happens. Well, as it turns out, uh, we are incredibly creative as humans, and there are multiple timelines that are going on. And the evidence of this is something called the Mandela effect. So people might have heard of this before, but for everybody in the audience, the Mandela effect was coined because some people remember Nelson Mandela, who was very famous.
Right.
Remember him dying in the 80s, I think, or 90s. And then other people remember him dying in the 2000s, 2010, 13, something like that. So so people have these kind of mass uh, rememberings that are completely different. Now, these things, when I first heard about it, it's like, oh gosh, I don't know if that's quite real. And then there were a couple things that hit home for me. And one of them was, growing up, being a little boy in the 1960s, everybody wore Fruit of the Loom underwear and t-shirts. And Fruit of the Loom um, had is as its logo a cornucopia, and out of the cornucopia was falling a bunch of fruit. It was fruit of the loom, and so this cornucopia was there, and you know I certainly wore those, as I, for sure. Every other little boy wore those as well, and as it turns out, there was never a cornucopia. There's Fruit of the Loom is just it's the logo now doesn't have any cornucopia with fruit. No, that doesn't exist, and it never did exist. And it's like, wait a second, no, 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 no. I distinctly remember that. But there were many others, and for the people who are a little bit older who are watching this, Johnny Carson. Everybody knows The Tonight Show. The Tonight Show, I think, is still going on. But back in the day, there was a guy by the name of Johnny Carson who was the host, and he had his sidekick was Ed McMahon. Now, uh, Ed McMahon, everybody remembers that Ed McMahon was the guy who would show up at your door with the prize patrol. They had Publishers Clearinghouse Prize Patrol. And if Ed McMahon showed up at your door, you were the winner of $1 million. So there would be all of these things, as us in the, 70s.
Publishers Weekly, right?
I think it was called Publishers Clearinghouse.
Clearinghouse. Okay.
Yeah, that's the way I remember it.
Okay.
But as it turns out, Ed McMahon in our current timeline, it's like, no, Ed McMahon had nothing to do with Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. So there are things that happen where you're like, oh my gosh, this can't be. My other one, which was very disappointing, was the movie Field of Dreams, because it was a great movie. And in the Field of Dreams, that the way I remember the Field of Dreams is, if you will build it, they will come. Now, this movie was all about building a baseball field in a corn out there in the country, in a farm, and the guy got this kind of this he had this feeling or whatever message, build the baseball field and all the players are going to come. And in the movie, he builds the baseball field, and all these players come out of the cornfield to play baseball. And but today it's shifted over. Now, this new timeline we're in, it says, if you build it, he will come.
Uh,
And what really, what
so
torques.
what is the significance of all of this? And yes, there are a lot of things, sex and the city, sex in the city. There's the Berenstein Bears, and there's I think one of the peanut butters, Jif and Jiffy or whatever. So okay, are they separate timelines, or what's going on there, Bill? And why and how can we manage this process of timelines?
This is a really good question. Well, what's the significance of all this is that they're the evidence of you're in a different timeline. Things shifted. You're not imagining it. I mean, there are so many now, and they're gaining by the day, where if you start looking it up, Mandela effects, you'll see that there are things that will blow your mind. That your reality is not what you thought.
Mhm.
So the significance of this is that it's the evidence that timeline, you can jump them, and you're being jumped. One of those jumps that I think pretty much everybody that I know is like, man, I'm in a different reality, is the whole thing we went through in 2019. Woke up one day and the entire world was shut down. And I was like, this is not my world. I felt like I was in an alternate reality. Like, hey, I got off on the wrong track here.
Mhm.
That's not my world. But anyway, that would be kind of an extreme example. But from a very practical standpoint, this is the evidence that not only do timelines jump, that you have no idea that it's happening, but um, you can start to get control of it. Well, which we'll get to that, of how do I get control, and how do I know that I'm personally creating new realities?
Okay, hang on. Let me ask you a quick question on that, because I'm sure that listeners are and viewers are asking themselves. So 2019, 2020, 21, the whole pandemic, we all experienced that. So how is that like a timeline? How does that work in with the whole timeline concept? Because I don't know anybody who didn't experience going through that time frame.
I'll frame it out as a question.
Okay.
Did that seem like your reality? Did that seem like, oh, that's consistent. That's so consistent, and it's everything about it. you know, all of the fighting, all of the suppressions of information or disinformation, or, whatever side you want to pick on it, however you want to pick. But did it seem off to you? Did it seem like, that doesn't really fit with my life? So,
Well, of course, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't, it sucked. So certain things do. So I still, we experienced it, and financially, I think people paid a price on that. And so I'm not trying to drill in too deep on this one particular point, but I think we all went through COVID in one way or the other. And so I don't know if we had a choice in terms of like, I'm just going to jump a different timeline and not experience this.
yeah, yeah. Well, we're talking right in that exact timeline right now.
Okay.
The 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 interesting thing is that this many worlds theory,
Hmm.
where something happens and literally another reality emerges, and there can be two realities going at the same time. And this this particular reality of the pandemic is the one that we're hanging out in right now.
Hmm.
But the interesting thing is that there's these jumping realities in between these two different realities, so that um, uh, the evidence points, how do I know if I jumped into a different reality, is to start paying attention to what we call your personal Mandela effects.
Okay.
And what a personal Mandela effect is like, for example, your neighborhood. All of a sudden, you're in your neighborhood, and uh, the house that you've driven by forever is a different color, or it has a different structure completely, and you drive by it every day, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, it was one story,
Hmm.
now it's two stories and it's green. And you go over and you look at it, and the paint is old. And you can tell by the foundation is
Hmm.
it wasn't like it was just built yesterday and I happened to somehow miss it. Signs, you know, signs, the name changes on different businesses, new buildings in your area. Um, uh, it, it could be any structures that all of a sudden appear or disappear. That is a sign that, oh, okay, I personally have shifted. And one of the great techniques to use, once you realize that, you like, when you see a really obvious one, super obvious, like, oh my God, that didn't exist. And what is that? What's that five-story building doing there?
Hmm.
This is this is strange. Okay, that the reality you're in is malleable. So what you do in those cases when you notice something like that, this is the reality where everything worked out. And you choose and you stay really firm in, this is the reality where me and my coworkers get along so great.
So as intention, it sounds like is very much part of the solution here.
Yes, and is part of your creation. The locking in of realities is something that you can do through your intention and through your feeling. So, for the people that are watching this, um, what we're talking about is this quantum mechanics, quantum physics. And there's been a bunch of really super interesting experiments that have shown that at the quantum level, that things can be a one or a zero at the same time.
Hmm.
all at the same time. They they don't um, they don't enter into a state of creation until observed. It sounds crazy, but they did these photon experience experiments where they fired photons through these slits
Right.
yeah, onto a board
Mhm.
behind. And in these, if there was no observer, that the photons would create a pattern as a wave, and when observed, the pattern would collapse into particles. So this particle would be like creating a reality. Now, how does that apply to our lives? And the way it applies, and the way that you can begin to get control, is to realize that our feelings and our thoughts have something to do with the way that we create, we perceive, and then we create reality. So I'll use a Cognomovement example. And the example is, Liz Larson and myself, we do sessions for people. For example, they may resent their parent. I had one lady, claimed her mother was a narcissist. And and she was like, "Oh my God, not only is she a narcissist, but I think she wants to kill me." You know.
Oh, by the
So,
way,
by the way, so we do the session, right? Literally, the this woman is like in her 50s, and and at the end of the session leaves to go drive home, and as she's driving home, she gets a phone call, and it's her mother. Mother never calls, and the mother picks up the phone. "Oh, hi, honey. I'm awful sorry. I was just thinking about some of the things I've done in my life and that they were very hurtful for you. And I'm very sorry that I did those things, and I'll never do them again. And it just occurred to me, blah, 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 and I'm sorry for this and that and the other thing." Now, narcissists never apologize for anything. And if you do, it's false. So it's a manipulation. But amazingly, this entire relationship transformed. During this woman's session that she had, she realized that her mom actually loved her, that her mom did show up to her sporting events, that her mom did support her. And when she unlocked this perspective, what happened is the mom instantly got the information and behaved differently. She shifted an entire timeline instantly, literally like within minutes. That was impossible for over 50 years.
well, let me ask you this, Bill. So, my special guest, once again, Bill McKenna, the creator of Cognomovement, and works with it along with his partner, Liz Larson. So, in this instance, this woman corrected one aspect of her relationship with her mother, who had been a narcissist. Does that constitute shifting a timeline, or is that more of just somebody's behavior got better? And the reason why is because they sent out the right intention or whatever. Because when I think of a timeline, I think of, well, we had World War III in this timeline, and we didn't in this other timeline. This sounds like a very like micro timeline. So you can make these micro shifts. And but are they timeline shifts, or are they simply behavioral shifts based on your intention and perspective? And then does that constitute what you call a timeline shift?
So you observe. You
Mhm.
observe. Like, for example, for this woman, this woman was one that Liz Larson had worked with. Now, when this happens, what you do is you observe reality. You go to the grocery store, and you buy goat cheese every week at the grocery store, and you go in and there's no goat cheese. And you go up to the person and you say, Hey, where's the goat cheese? We
Mhm.
don't have goat cheese. You have to go down to a different store for that. We don't care. Well, you always care. No, we've never carried goat cheese. I'm the head of the dairy department here, and we don't carry goat cheese. We don't believe in goats, you know. So, you know, stuff like that. It's like, oh, okay. This is my own personal
Mhm.
Mandela effect shift timeline type thing. Um, is it just their behavior? Is it a new timeline? You know,
I guess it's what you call a
yeah,
timeline, how you define a timeline,
yeah.
because if it could be a major timeline shift or it could be micro. But the point that I guess is that you're professing, Bill, is that people can create their realities, and cognitive movement can help them position themselves that they can. I don't want to say manipulate, but they can be the master of their reality versus on the receiving and reacting end of it. They can be responding instead of reacting. They can create, and that's all part of how you shift your perspective by rewiring your nervous system and brain using cognitive movement. Is that accurate?
That's exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. Second question is you mentioned the simulation, that we may be living in a simulation. When we talk about timelines, some people say, well, we're in a matrix and it can be proven. And what's your perspective on that? And do you think we're in a simulation? And if so, what are the ramifications for what you've been talking about in terms of timeline shifting and management?
This is, this is a super interesting question. And um, are we in a simulation? Elon Musk, love him or hate him,
Mhm.
but he's a fairly smart guy. And he said that the odds that we're not in what's called base reality are, astronomical. That that in his view, that we're in a base reality would be the core of it. So I always thought, well, it's interesting as a concept, being in a simulation. The movie The Matrix is
Mhm.
really founded upon that. And anyway, um, there is a guy out there who had done an experiment. And this experiment was with a red laser uh, and uh, DMT. Now, DMT is a hallucinogen. This sounds, again, pretty nutty, but uh, he basically got a laser and and cast it upon a wall. And when he shined this laser on the wall and looked into it, he saw these symbols. Now, these symbols look like kanji or a Hebrew or other alien type writing,
Mhm.
and and it is interesting because if you move the laser up the wall, you actually will see different symbols. You move it down the wall, you see different symbols. And and one of my fundamental questions about this I just got answered last week. And that was, if you stick your arm in between the where the laser is and the wall, different symbols.
Mhm.
So now, if one dude's doing this, and he's smoking DMT, you might think, well, the guy's a little bit, he's out
Mhm.
there and, he's having some hallucinogenic type experience. But in truth, there's now thousands of people who've done this experiment and they see the exact same thing. They see the exact same characters. And with this, you might say, oh, okay, well, it's a DMT type thing. As it turns out, there's meditators, which are very advanced meditators who have been able to see it as well. So it has everything to do with an elevated level of consciousness.
Mhm.
Uh, consciousness is just awareness. And these advanced meditators have been able to see the exact same symbols as you shine this laser on the wall. So my point is that it appears that there is something going on, as far as uh, having some sort of program. Now, this program is certainly interfaced with our consciousness because we're constantly manipulating it, and it's responding to what we're thinking and feeling.
Okay. All right. So, Bill McKenna, my special guest on Guys Radio, a deep dive into Cognomovement, timelines, the matrix, simulations, etc. We don't have time to do anything more. So, Bill, tell us where people can find out more about you and Liz and your show, New Perspectives?
New Life Perspectives.
New Life Perspectives on UK Health Radio. Just won an award as one of the fan favorites there. So, congratulations. And tell everybody where they can find out more about Cognomovement and about you and Liz.
Cognomovement.com. That's COGNOMOVEMENT.com. That's like cognitive and movement, all one word, .com. Now, on the site, there's all kinds of free information. There's Cognomovement on YouTube. There's blogs. There's many things.
And you can study to become a practitioner with you and Liz, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have practitioner programs, self-help programs, or you can get a session from a practitioner.
Fantastic. All right. Bill McKenna, return guest on Guys Radio, friend of the show, friend of mine, one of my teachers. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. Keep at it, and God bless. If you enjoy the guests and content I bring you each and every week to Guys TV and Guys Radio, please support us by subscribing to our channels and platforms. Thank you.